So I have watched the presidential debate between Trump and Harris. I think it may be the only one. I think it will be one of the most significant presidential debates. I think it will go down as one of the most significant presidential debates of modern times because of the significance of this election. I've said it before. Every American election you hear, it's historic. It's like the biggest election ever. I think this time it really, really is. I think the stakes are so big, not necessarily because of policy, but because of the contrast between the candidates. Let me just put it out there from the start. I think Harris absolutely won this debate. And that's not from a partisan bias, because I think Biden lost the last one, even though I wanted Biden to win the last one, but he lost. Kamala Harris won this debate. Donald Trump lost this debate. There's just no question about that. And I don't think anyone looking at that objectively can say otherwise. It's glaringly obvious. Now, do I think it will change the outcome of the election? It's negligible how much debates have an influence on vote. Certainly, hardcore Trump voters, it won't sway them at all. If anything, they might be annoyed with their candidate for not pushing Harris harder on the areas they, I think I don't think it'll be. I honestly, they'll just call it fake news. I just don't think that a televised debate. I doubt they'll even tune in, to be quite honest. But I think that Kamala Harris more or less done what she had to do, which was to get under Trump's skin. From the very start, she went in there with a strategy. She went in there organized. She knew what she was doing. She shook his hand. I mean, I didn't expect that. That was kind of that little act of civility was to take Trump off guard. Um, and it worked. I mean, from the start of that debate, and throughout, I'd say 80, 90% of it, he was defensive. He was angry. He was effectively shouting. I mean, it wasn't a perfect night for Harris. There was a few moments that, for example, she did evade some questions. Um, there was times, she was doing that laughter thing. It's not her best look, but I just think that she done what she had to do, which was to get Trump on the defensive. And the irony here is she is the vice president. She's the sitting vice president, so she should be the establishment figure. You know, she came across as the challenger. She came across as I can make a lot of analogies with former presidents who were the the future when they were running. There were echoes there of John F. Kennedy, echoes of Ronald Reagan. Harris managed to get all of that. Seriously, because she hit all the right notes. I really think that she just got Trump on the defensive. One of the most bizarre moments in that debate was when he regurgitated this bizarre story about Haitian immigrants eating pets. I mean, I don't even know. And Harris was laughing at that because it was, to be honest, I can't blame her. I mean, it was just such a bizarre take. JD Vance pushed that earlier. It's been debunked. Um, and the city council has debunked this. It's just, it was bizarre to go there. Um, Trump kept going off on a tangent. When one subject came up, he went on to another subject. He was erratic. He was angry. Um, the only thing I'll say, he didn't really get into personal insults. He didn't give her any, personal jibes as such, except to say she is Biden and to try and paint her with the administration. But it's the only thing he didn't do that would have been Trumpian is like a personal insult. He didn't do that. Although he was pushed on the thing about race, well, she turned black. She turned black. I just thought, I mean, there'll be those who out there who say it was, it's biased media, it's three against one. Possibly there could have been more follow up on Harris. Possibly there could have been more aggressive follow up because she did evade some questions. There was one point where, and I know one of the Republican commentators on the CNN analysis, I should say it was ABC, hosted this from Philadelphia. Um, on the Afghanistan thing, she was asked did she regret, anything there. She should have used that opportunity to kind of voice a personal message about the soldiers who died. And usually Harris is very good at that stuff, so she did miss the ball on that one. But frankly, there wasn't much else on the abortion subject, on the abortion segment. Trump asked her about, at what point will you cut it off? 7 months, 8 months? What will it be? And she evaded that. So there were a few points where she evaded questions, but honestly, she was so dominant, I feel, that it won't affect the outcome of the debate, which is that she won. I really believe that. Um, and this isn't coming from partisan bias. I've made no secret of the fact I can't stand Trump, but I acknowledge that Biden lost the last debate. I just believe Harris won this one. I really, really do. Um, she done everything she had to do. She got under his skin, and there was a lot of notable points in this debate. She said you were fired by 81 million Americans. But one bit that really struck me was the closing statements. Now, a closing statement should be the candidate pitching themselves as to why they are best for America, right? Harris used that segment to promote a positive case for her for the future, for what she is offering. She's often been accused of being vague on detail. I'm not sure if that's entirely fair. I think she has touched a lot on policy areas. There's only so much you could do in 2 minutes, right? But the point is about that closing segment, she was optimistic, she was presidential, she sounded like the voice of the future. Donald Trump used his entire closing segment to whinge and to complain about Harris. That was it. He didn't even try to sell himself. That would be the one point I would say, okay, it's legitimate to sell yourself. Donald Trump is a candidate who is famous for his ego. Yet, ironically, that one segment where he could have sold himself, he used it to attack Harris. He wasted that opportunity. Trump looked like he really didn't want to be there. He was defensive all night. It's often been portrayed as the prosecutor versus the convicted defendant. It really felt like that at times. And I'm sure his base will say it was biased media. They were out to get him, etc. Harris was asked tough questions. They can't say that she wasn't asked any challenging questions. She was. Um, Maybe the follow up could have been more aggressive, perhaps. But I think even if that had been, I just think Trump lost this badly. Um, that doesn't, of course, mean that it will directly correspond with what will happen in November the 5th. It was in Pennsylvania. It's a key swing state. Um, I think even more Republicans will cross over if they've got any sense. Obviously, his base, solid Trump voters aren't going to be swayed because they'll be convinced it's all fake news. It's all fake news. But Trump was just so erratic in his answers and so Trumpy, and it's on one hand it was predictable, but even by his standards, for me, the regurgitating that conspiracy theory, that nonsense about immigrants eating cats, and um, bizarre, absolutely bizarre. Um, I mean, the record on that is the council leader in that town, I think it's somewhere in the Midwest, was contacted about this and said, look, it's fake news. There's no evidence that this has happened. So why the hell is someone who wants to be president of the United States and is running mate regurgitating this lie? It's because they're trying to stoke up anti-immigrant hostility. It's supposedly their red meat. But here's the thing: even on the immigration question, I don't think Trump won that. Harris effectively pointed out that the Democrats pushed a bipartisan bill, which Trump shot down. I can't think of a single segment that honestly could be said that he won. The abortion thing, she could have done a bit better insofar as, I mean, she touched on the points about um, Trump overturning that because of his justices, but and she did evade when Trump asked her a direct question. She should have answered that, but I still think she was measured because look, you don't need to portray your religious conviction. Um, she called out his lies, for example, the gun grabbing nonsense. That could be, he could have been Wayne Lapierre with that one. I'm talking about NRA or former head. of the NRA, this lie, this absolute lie that the Democrats are gun grabbing. I mean, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, combined 16 years, they didn't gun grab at all. It's just one of those fear mongering tactics that Trump likes to use. Big. Unfortunately, there is a big swathe of his supporters who will they could be showed Donald Trump saying something with his own mouth, and they will still say it's fake news, such as the distrust with the media, and that's unfortunate. But I think unquestionably Kamala Harris won that debate. It doesn't mean she's going to win the election. Apparently in Pennsylvania it's 50-50. That's for me that's troubling because I think the concept of another Trump term is just the Atlantic publication had a front cover, no words, no title. They just showed this image of this kind of uh, circus caravan driven by Trump and this very sad looking elephant caged in the back of it, heading toward the ruined Capitol. And the imagery here was that Trump has the Republican Party, obviously epitomized by the elephant, um, in chains. Party of Lincoln has been destroyed by Trump. That's the sad thing. Trump's 78, so if he loses this time, I can't even with the power he has on his base, I can't see him seriously being the candidate again in 2028. I just can't see that happening. I mean, if it did, it would be God. If it's considered that the Democrats were shooting themselves in the foot by putting Biden forward, I think an 82-year-old Donald Trump in 4 years would be even more glaringly. I mean, put it this way: he's showing signs of his age now, and he's 3 years younger than Biden. Biden is certainly showing signs of his age. He's not the candidate, and I think he should have dropped out earlier. But Trump is showing some of those signs now, right? So what's it going to be like in 4 years? I think he'll be, even if he is the candidate, which is highly unlikely, I think his age will be even more glaringly obvious than Biden. And there's another point to remember about all of this. Kamala Harris has had, what, a month, 2 months to prepare for a presidential run. It's usually a year and a half. So she does pull this off. It's all the more remarkable. I mean, on one hand, it could be said that it shouldn't be hard because Trump is so awful, but America is in a very strange place right now. There's an incredible number of people that support him. Um, there are areas that she will need to convince people on. You know, talking about joy and optimism is all very well. I think it does have a place, but if there are small businesses, and to be fair, she did touch on small businesses, she did address that, but she has to because people who are struggling with the cost of living, small businesses, similar issues in Britain, those people want reassurance, obviously. Um, Trump keeps pushing this message about him having a stronger economy. Now, I'm not an economist, and I think with economic prowess, there's a lot of different indicators of that. I don't think it's one single indicator. So both campaigns can say they have the better economy. I think honestly that depends what index you use. Um, but yeah, I think absolutely Kamala Harris won that, which I expected her to. I didn't think it would be a bad night for her, but she actually excelled what I thought. The only thing I would say is there was a few bits where she looked a little bit, she was openly laughing and stuff. That was a little bit, she didn't need to do that. Although I can understand it, but um, she did avoid when he directly asked her about the term limit things on abortion, and she did kind of evade some of the questions that she was asked about, for example, changing her position. She didn't directly answer that. But Trump absolutely went off on a tangent. He didn't only not answer questions, he changed the subject entirely. So, he was far more doing that a lot more than she was. But yeah, that's my honest take on it. I'm not going to lie, I absolutely want Kamala Harris to win. But I went into this debate objectively. I thought, okay, if she messes up, then she messes up. I didn't expect her to, and she didn't. Um, if I'm ranking both of them out of 10 for the performance tonight, but like just about tonight's performance, I give Harris 7 out of 10. It wasn't perfect. There were bits she could have done better, but considering the time she's had to prepare in terms of her presidential run, um, given what she's up against, you know, I think she's done everything she needed to do. There was a few little bits she could have done better, but 7 or 8 out of 10. Trump, honestly, 4 out of 10, and I'm being generous. The only bits he got on was he touched on some of the red meat areas for his base about high crime and immigration. He did, go to those things, but he utterly failed in the foreign policy bit. He attempted to portray her as weak. She effectively pointed out he is a stooge of dictators. I mean, and he some of his rants were desperate. He claims she hates Israel. This is while she's simultaneously vowing to support Israel militarily. It's just desperate nonsense. She claimed she hates Israel. I mean, that's astonishing. And then he claims she hates the Arabs as well. I don't think Trump has any real concrete plan regarding Israel and Gaza. Um, I mean, I know there's a lot of young Democrats, particularly young Muslims, who are very angry with Harris and Biden. But I would say to them respectfully, at least they're trying to push for a ceasefire. At least they advocate a two-state solution. What's Trump's policy on that? I think it's vague at best. Trump talks about Afghanistan. Biden was absolutely hammered over that. Maybe that's justified. It was very, very chaotic scenes. Everyone remembers Kabul. But the fact of the matter is, Trump was negotiating with the Taliban. Trump wanted to pull out as well. So the sheer hypocrisy of attacking Biden on that, the Biden Harris administration on that, it's just. Here's another ironic thing. Trump attempted to, make Harris like the establishment, and it utterly failed. It fell flat. Contrast that to the way that Obama effectively defeated John McCain on tying John McCain somewhat unfairly to George W. Bush. Nevertheless, it worked. Trump tried it and it has failed. The areas where he should have succeeded on immigration, I'm not sure he even managed to do that. It's just, I mean, the way she dominated that was so profound. Here's the thing: I actually think, in of itself, in terms of defeating Trump, she absolutely done that tonight. If it was a debate, if it was any other candidate, I would say she wasn't outstanding. Like I say, she did evade some questions, and if she'd went, if put it this way, if she was going against a normal Republican candidate, I think she might have not even won. But because it's Donald Trump, it's pretty easy for her to play the prosecutor because he is a convicted felon, and he played straight into her trap because was going on about crime, and that just invited her to point out that he is a criminal. He's a convicted criminal. He tried citing his um, respect from world leaders, and the best he could come up with was Viktor Orban, one European leader. The vast majority of European leaders are staunchly anti-Trump. Orban's a stooge of, you know, a stooge of Putin. It's just it's desperation. I mean, Harris pointed out that Trump is absolutely in lieu with dictators, and that is absolutely true. Do whatever the hell you want. He didn't even try to deny that. In fact, he doubled down. I'll make them pay up because he thinks NATO is some sort of country club. Um, but what he said was utterly despicable about they could do, inviting the Kremlin to do whatever the hell it wants. Despicable. But the bit where he was pushing this thing about Haitian immigrants eating pets, to hear that in a presidential debate, it's just bizarre. Bizarre. Anyway, that's my take. Absolutely, Kamala Harris won that. Doesn't mean it'll change the course of the election. If she wins or loses, I don't think it will necessarily be from this debate. Nevertheless, there were some very notable moments there. And it's pretty clear Trump was fuming. He looked angry throughout the whole thing. He didn't look a confident candidate wouldn't be that angry. Put it that way. If Trump really believes in himself so much, as his ego suggests, then He was really defensive, really angry. Yeah, I think she won, no question about it.